Hey, if you're looking to create a set of financial projections for an acquisition loan, maybe an SBA acquisition loan, and they've asked you for some projections, one of the biggest questions is going to be, what kind of reasonable growth rates should I assume in my projections? And we help a lot of folks that are looking to acquire a business and help them create their financial projections. I'm going to show you our acquisition financial projection template here in a second. But one of the key questions is, what's a reasonable growth rate? Should I expect a growth rate and should I expect a growth rate right away, or is that going to happen over time during a transition period from new ownership, and what would that look like? So it's always a tough question for me to answer, but I found a source here with a study, and I'll put a link to this particular study in the description of the video below, but it surveyed a number of searchers who were looking to acquire a business, and it asked them, post-acquisition, did your revenue increase or not? And so we actually have some data here that we can back this up. And I think this could be helpful as you are maybe trying to back up your assumptions to your lender. You can say, hey, here's a study of other folks who have acquired a business to give you a little bit of defense there with your projections. So let me show you our acquisition template real quick and then get into the study and what we can find there. So I have our acquisition projection template pulled up here, and we'll put a link to this in the description of the video below as well. This is helpful if you're applying for an SBA loan. You're going to need to create a set of projections. Now, what this will allow you to do is put in historical revenue numbers for the business. So you can put in your historical revenue numbers, and then you can set some assumptions here about growth rates. And you're able to do the same thing with the expenses. So you can enter in your historical expenses here and then use that as a baseline to create projections. But in particular, I'm interested on the revenue side because there's always that question of what growth rate is reasonable. And so let me pull up the data that we found. Okay, so this is a screenshot from this study by the Search Investment Group. And this is what they found. So revenue performance of all respondents. So 33% of respondents increased, 67 maintained their revenue numbers. And then on the EBITDA side, 37% increased, 54% maintained, and only 9% had a decline in EBITDA. So I think it's reasonable based on this study and this data. You can send this to your lender if they're questioning you about increasing your revenue post-acquisition. You can send them this study, which we'll link to in the description, and say, we think there's some basis here for, that it's common for a business to increase revenue post-acquisition. So wanted to mention that, and I think hopefully it'll be useful for you as you're trying to kind of defend your assumptions in your projections. Thanks.